Here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Hi, I'm Michael Corelli from Jurassic Yearbook, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge Podcast.
Hey kids, this is Ian from Theme Park Stop. You're listening to the Coaster Challenge Podcast. Enjoy. Be nice to Dave. He's awesome.
I accept the Coaster Challenge.
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 Do you accept the Coaster Challenge?
What is the Coaster Challenge? A group of regular people that went from fearful to fearless, all from riding roller coasters. So please secure your hats and glasses. It's time to take the Coaster Challenge. Here are your hosts, David Cantu and Jenna Gazelle.
Hey, how's it going, Jenna?
Good, how about you, Dave?
Doing good, doing good. Happy July 16th.
Wow, it's already July.
Midsummer.
Holy cow.
It's really moving fast, isn't it?
Yeah, that's kind of scary to think about. Like, we're halfway through the year, over halfway through the year, and it's going to be the holidays before you know it.
You know, they say that once the 4th of July has passed, pretty much summer is coming close to an end.
Aww, I don't like thinking about that.
But you know what? But for the coaster community, coaster season continues because not also when summer ends, then fall comes, and that's when all the even more exciting stuff comes at the theme parks.
Yay! That's when we get to do the special stuff.
Yeah, and we got Halloween going to be coming up this fall.
I like Halloween.
Then we got Christmas events. I mean, this is going to be a pretty exciting... I would say this will be a very exciting fall season because really last year we didn't have any of that stuff. There were no Halloween events at the theme parks. Or some parks in the country had it, but not in California.
Yeah, I mean, trick-or-treating for Halloween just kind of sucked. I mean, there was really no trick-or-treaters.
Not at all. I mean, it was like everyone really just stayed home. So I think this is going to be... We're just getting started. Even though summer may be halfway done, but we're just getting started
That means
this year.
Schools are going to be going back in session, too.
Not too far. I mean, we're already toward the middle of July here, and yeah. But I'm just saying is, I think that we start off with a very, very busy, productive summer, but I have a funny feeling this is just going to keep on going because we're going to have a very busy fall season, especially right here on this podcast.
Yes, very much so.
But we got a really, really special episode today. This is going to be a very heartfelt episode because this is an episode that I'm actually going to be doing a one-on-one interview with a special guest named Tanner. Tanner and I share something very, very in common here. And actually, he is the first guest that we have on this podcast that him and I share something deeply in common. And we both have Tourette Syndrome.
And it's really close to home with you. I mean, even growing up with you, you know, not understanding everything about what goes on. I know we have another mutual friend that has the same thing. I don't want to say it's a disability because that's just labeling another thing. But yeah, I mean...
Yeah, and so, yes, our correspondence team took the time off on this one because this was an episode that I felt that this was something that
personal.
I want personal. This is a personal interview between me and Tanner. It's a very heartfelt one. I'm very excited about it. I can't wait for all you guys to listen to this one. It's a very incredible story. But first, we are going to do our lovely segment, Jenna. We are going to do our YouTube highlight clip of the week.
YouTube clip of the week.
Alright, so this week's YouTube highlight clip of the week is something very interesting. It's something I've never ever seen a ride operator do on a roller coaster.
I don't think... Okay, keep in mind, the roller coaster isn't like a real big one. It's a kiddie coaster, but still, I don't think I've ever seen a ride operator have to do what he did. I hope they really gave him pay for that manual labor.
All right, so this particular coaster doesn't really have a name, and it's not at a Cedar Fair or Six Flags park here. Actually, this looks like something that's at a family fun center. If I had to describe this type of coaster, I would say it's like Wilderness Run in Cedar Fair parks at Carowinds, Cedar Point, like the Great Pumpkin coaster over at Kings Island. Knott's Berry Farm has this wilderness run type of ride. It's basically, if you're a coaster enthusiast, you know where I'm going with this. It's basically one of those little kiddie rides. This one, actually, the train looks like a dragon. And what's interesting is, apparently this coaster had a malfunction.
Of some sort.
Of some sort. Because normally the coasters, they run like...
without any help.
Yeah, without any assistance. They have the chain lift hill and all that stuff. Well, this particular coaster, I guess, broke down. And the ride operator, instead of evacuating all the people off the train, he decided he's going to manually push this train. And...
I will give him props for doing it.
Talk about having muscle. He's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger at all in this video, but so he is on the back of this train and he's literally pushing it up this little hill and it keeps going back and forth, and then all of a sudden he just did a big push and all of a sudden
he got up over that little
dip
hill.
And all of a sudden the coaster just started going around and around until it started slowing down, and then he went and gave it another push. And then it was right back into the station.
I mean, I kind of feel for the guy.
Hey,
because that has got to be heavy.
He was trying to make sure these kids had a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's talk about going above and beyond here. This is a little kiddie ride.
He's pushing it, but it's not just kids. It's like some kids with their parents. So you know that extra weight has got to be heavy.
Yeah, probably. So I have to commend this guy. I would say it would be kind of a safety issue, because what if that train went backwards and hit him? But it's a real, risky move he did.
Yeah, I mean, because when you look at the clip, there's like a cable that connects to the center, and sometimes it kind of looks like it almost hits him.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, whoa, did that just hit him? And then he goes right on to pushing it again.
Yeah. So I'll have to commend him for trying to keep the kids entertained. But this was a very interesting clip. And if you guys like to check it out, it's called Roller Coaster Fail on YouTube. But anyway, this was something I've never seen at a park in all the years I've been going on.
Or Carnival. I've never seen anything like that at a Carnival. Usually they just shut it down, make everybody evacuate the ride, and the ride's just closed.
Yeah. So, but this was just something very rare that I've never seen before. But if you guys want to check it out, check it out on YouTube. But this was a pretty good YouTube highlight
clip of the week.
YouTube clip of the week.
So David's standing by with Tanner for the interview. So go ahead and take it away, David.
All right. So we got a very special episode today. I've got a really special guest on, and him and I share something very unique. And we'll get into that a little later. But right now, I want to introduce Tanner. Hi, Tanner. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be on here.
Well, it's very exciting to have you on because, like you and I talked off the air, that you and I share something very unique in the coaster community. And you're the first person that I've ever met that has something that I have. And we will go into that a little later. But it was a really honor because just for our listeners to know that you and I met for the first time, I think it was 2019. We met at Kings Island, and you and I just happened to be standing in line for the Beast at Night for a night ride. And it was, I believe, was your first time as well riding the Beast at Night. It was mine as well. So you and I have a lot in common when it comes to that. So you and I got to be on the same train together, got to meet your family, and you have a wonderful, your family is just wonderful. And I'll never forget that interaction you and I had. And like I told our listeners, we will discuss that in our second half of our interview. Let's go down memory lane here, because you love roller coasters. You've been riding how long you've been riding roller coasters?
I've been riding roller coasters since I was little, but I really got into them about 6-7 years ago, I would say.
So now that we're talking about the roller coasters, let's go down memory lane a little bit here. So what was your very first roller coaster you rid?
My first just roller coaster in general was Who and Holler. It was a kiddie coaster at my home park, Six Flags Darien Lake. My first major coaster was actually Viper at Six Flags Darien Lake. It's an aerodynamics custom looper. It was my first major coaster I ever run on, and it was definitely exciting.
Oh yeah? Oh, yeah. Really cool. So let's talk about Viper there, because that was your first big coaster that you've ridden. So when you were getting ready to ride that for the very first time, how were you feeling when you were approaching the station?
I was nervous, never been on a big roller coaster. It's always nervous, especially going on your first one. It's just like anytime you do a first time of anything, you always get those nerves. But I think and then once you do it, then you kind of realize, wow, this is actually amazing. And that's kind of how it was. I got on it and I loved it. I said it was my first major coaster and I loved it. It was those nerves really.
Yeah, I haven't been out to Six Flags Darien Lake. I haven't been out there yet. I'm hoping to get out there sometime in the future. But tell me a little bit about Viper. I mean, I'm assuming that this was your first time going upside down.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it had a couple of inversions on that ride. Did it have like a barrel roll? Did it have a cobra roll?
It had one, what's it called? Regular loop. It had a bat wing too, which was very cool. Not many aerials have that. It had a couple of corkscrews. I think it might have had a barrel roll. I mean, it was more of a, I don't know if it was a barrel roll. It was kind of like a half barrel roll, half corkscrew type thing. So it was, but.
Well, it sounds a lot like my home park ride, Viper, over at Six Flags Magic Mountain, because that's an aero looping coaster as well. So it sounds like a replica coaster. So your first coaster, you literally got to experience almost every type of inversion for the first time, all in one coaster. I've had a few guests on that have shared that story where they got to go upside down first time. They got to go through a cobra roll. They got to go through a barrel roll. So they got like 1-2 punch experience on everything that a coaster can offer. When you finished riding that for the very first time, how did you feel when you got off that coaster?
I mean, it felt great. It was riding my first coaster. I wasn't necessarily like huge into coasters back then the way I am now. Like I've always loved riding coasters. They're always just fun. Doing anything that I think you're kind of nervous or feared of. It always when you get off it, you almost feel a sense of accomplishment. Like, oh, I did it. And so it was definitely very fun, very, very thrilling.
That is awesome. And were you ready to ride the next big thing after you got off that coaster?
Yeah. I was hustling all around the park, trying to get on everything.
So I guess, did riding Viper for the first time and after you got off, did it make an impact on your life after riding that coaster?
I want to say that coaster in specific. I think the coasters that will make an impact. I think the coaster that will make an impact on my life is actually the coaster that's in the same park by the Steel, and I assume we get to that later. But I want to say it would have an impact. It was just more just fun. It was just more of kind of just a fun thing.
Did it? What coaster would you say that really made you? Would it be Ride of Steel? Was it the one coaster that made you completely fearless overall?
I think it was definitely Ride of Steel. It's an intimate hyper coaster. My family would always go on it. I always sat back with my dad, who doesn't really like roller coasters. He doesn't like big roller coasters, doesn't like drops. So I always sat back with my dad, and my parents and my mom finally convinced me to get on it, and so did the ride operator, because there's like a ride operator at the front of the line. So he convinced me to get on it, and it was actually really fun. And I was thinking to myself, wow, I completed this, and then I completed this, and then I just go on anything. Wow. I completed something I was terrified of. So I feel like if I can do that, I can do anything.
Nice. Yeah, that's how I felt after I rode the Accelerator over at Knott's Berry Farm. That was my first extreme launch coaster. I mean, my first launch coaster was California Screamin' over at Disney's California Adventure. But Accelerator turned me into an enthusiast, and it really turned me like a fearless person. But even when I went on Top Thrill Dragster, that would be the fastest coaster I've been on so far to date. I have not been on King Ka yet, which, like I said, I haven't been up in the Northeast, up in the New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area yet. And I plan to get up there because there's a lot of great coasters up in that area where you're at. So like I said, hyper coasters for me, I mean, I've ridden quite a few around the country. I would say my most favorite hyper coaster is Mako over at SeaWorld Orlando.
Yeah.
That is like the best hyper coaster I've ever experienced. When I go back to Florida this October, I plan to marathon Mako as much as I can while I'm there. And but yeah, now that we know what coaster has made an impact in your life, and it's made you pretty fearless, and you've just been hooked, you've become a coaster. Would you say that Ride of Steel made you a coaster enthusiast?
Yeah. I think that helped. And also, we went to Cedar Point later that summer. That Cedar Point really got me into it. Especially when I'm going to Cedar Point. I've always knew about Cedar Point, but when I'm going to Cedar Point, I really started getting into coasters. And Cedar Point to this day is still, in my opinion, the best park in the world. I mean, it's the coaster lineup that it has is unmatched. Maybe besides Six Flags Magic Mountain, but I think Cedar Point is just so much diversity and so much. I mean, it's quantity and quality. Like it has a lot, but also really most of them, all the rides, some maybe a couple are like really, really good rides.
Yeah, that's the one thing I love about Cedar Point, and that's where I'm torn because I'm from the West Coast. I'm from Southern California, and Magic Mountain is my home park, and I love Six Flags Magic Mountain, but I also dearly love Cedar Point. See, like you said, Cedar Point's got a variety of things for all ages to do. It's not just about the roller coasters at Cedar Point. They've got all kinds of attractions. They even got the beach. They've got, docks for boating. I mean, there's a lot of amazing things to do at Cedar Point, and it's good for everybody. And there's camping there. I mean, hotels are on the property. I mean, it's just a really well laid out resort amusement park. And I just, I try to go to Cedar Point every year because it's one of my most favorite places to go. And I just love, because Steel Vengeance right now is my number one coaster overall. And I don't know if that's going to hold number one for me once I get on Velocicoaster or Iron Gwazi. That's going to be this year pending to see if that's going to top Steel Vengeance for me. But Steel Vengeance will always be number one for me right now, but we'll see if that changes as I ride more and more coasters around the country. Now that we know pretty much what has turned you into an enthusiast, how many roller coasters have you ridden?
I think off the top, if I remember correctly, I think I've ridden 77. Okay. So I mean, it's not a lot, but I think I'm continuing to go up there. Under that, it's like 4 years I've been to Cedar Point, Kings Island, Canada's Wonderland, Carowinds, Six Flags Great Adventure, Busch Gardens. So I've been to all these parks, and I've told myself once I'm in a couple of years, once I'm able to drive, I'm planning on I'm going like a big cross country amusement park trip. I'm always saving up, but I really want to get in the mid hundreds.
How old are you now, Tanner?
I'm 15. So
15? Okay.
Yeah.
I know I have a lot of coaster enthusiast friends, a lot of kids that are 15 years old now, and I've met them all when they were 12. So that when I met you the first time, you were 13?
Yeah, 13.
Wow. And time is flying here. I mean, the pandemic has really killed a year for us all here. And I will say, but at your age right now, 77 is a pretty good number. You've ridden quite a few coasters. I mean, you've got a full life ahead of you where you will be able to get to experience so many more coasters, and there are so many good ones out there that I can't wait for you to share when you get to ride more and more. I would love for you to share with me your experiences on them. So now that we know how many coasters you've ridden, so based on the coasters that you have ridden, what would be your favorite coaster?
Steel Vengeance. I don't really anticipate anything topping that either. And I mean, I think the only coasters I think that could possibly top that is maybe Iron Gwazi. I think Velociraptor can maybe. That looks awesome. And maybe a couple I'm forgetting, but Steel Vengeance, it is the best coaster, I think, in the world. I mean, the air time, the elements, the inversions, the speed, the length, the how smooth it is, like the height, everything is just perfect with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the key thing with Steel Vengeance with me is how smooth the ride is, the airtime you get on it. The inversions are just fantastic. I mean, I've ridden quite a few RMC coasters, but Twisted Colossus was my first one over at Six Flags Magic Mountain. But when I got on Steel Vengeance, I was in love. I was like, oh my God, I was in shock on my first ride experience. I came off that ride with this look like my mouth was dropped to the floor. Like, what did I just experience here? But I marathon Steel Vengeance as much as I could back in 2018. And that's why I put it on my number one. But like I said, like you said, it's all on Iron Gwazi, Velocicoaster. I'm hearing such a buzz on Velocicoaster. One of my East Coast producers, he got to ride it, and he made it his number one. We'll see. I mean, we'll find out when you know what, when you get down to Florida again, Tanner, and you get to ride Iron Gwazi or Velocicoaster. Yeah, I definitely want you to reach back to me and tell me that has topped your number one. Right.
Definitely.
There. So
I mean, we usually, me and my family usually take a Florida vacation every single spring break. And I know we want to go to Universal next year, because we've been to Disney so many times. But I want to get to Universal. I think I love Disney, but I think Universal, especially for me, as a coaster enthusiast and loves thrills. I mean, it's it has a thrill factor that Disney doesn't. So I'm very excited to get down to Universal in the near future.
Yeah, I think Universal's got a future, man. They're investing. I mean, they're building a third park. You know, we're both gonna be. It's going to be exciting to experience that in the future.
Yeah.
Now that we know what your favorite coaster is, what is your least favorite coaster?
I've been a lot of bad ones. I'll probably say Predator at my home park, Sisters Day and Lakes up there. It's a Disney Corporation winning coaster. Absolutely dreadful. I'm playing against Seed soon, but that's still hope. I need to become SOC Everton. Atrocious. Time Warp at Canada's Wonderland. Both Canada's Wonderland winning coasters are bad. Corkscrew at Cedar Point, I hate. So it's hard to come up with just one. I've been a lot of bad ones, but up time I had to probably go to Predator.
Well, some of the wooden ones you mentioned I haven't even written yet. So thank you for sharing with me on that, because it'll give me something to be aware of when I go on those coasters in the future. But I will agree with you on Corkscrew. Corkscrew is one of the oldest. I guess one funny thing about aero coasters, when they're new, they're great. But when they don't age well. Right. And Corkscrew, very shaky, headbanger, just like Viper at Magic Mountain. It's really shaky, rough, headbanger on the barrel rolls. I always hit my left jaw gets slammed every time on the over shoulder restraints. So I mean, it's just it's funny that you mentioned an aero Corkscrew. That seems to be on a lot of people's least favorite coaster, but it looks beautiful in the park when you walk through it.
Yeah, that is one thing with Corkscrew.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one reason why Cedar Point keeps that coaster in place, because the way it's located, it's beautiful to walk through when you go through their park on that. All right, so now that we've gone through the first half of talking about your coaster experience, let's go to the second half, because one thing I want to share with our listeners here is when you and I met for the first time, you and I shared something very in common, and it really lit me up, and you and I just clicked instantly, and your parents and my friends watched how you and I clicked, and we were speaking this language that nobody would understand, but only you and I can understand. And hopefully we can share some of that with our listeners today, because you're one of the first guests on my podcast where you share something that I've been struggling and been fighting with my whole life, is that you and I have Tourette syndrome.
Yeah.
And when you told me that you had Tourette's, you were the first one in the roller coaster community that I've met that has Tourette's. And I was really honored to meet you and be able to hear your story, for you to hear mine. You and I were able to help each other, be able to cope through some of the struggles that you and I have had growing up with Tourette's.
Yeah.
And I would like to take this opportunity to have you share your stories, what you've been dealing with your Tourette's. How did it start?
So I think I was diagnosed with Tourette's like right at birth or a couple months after birth. Funny enough, my Tourette's didn't actually start, like my tics didn't actually start till around I was 10 or 11. I never really had them as a child. So when I first caught him, I was, I remember the first time I made like a little squeak noise, almost like how a mouse would squeak. I'll make a little squeak noise. And, obviously having it for the first time, it's weird. So I told my mom, and that's when she told me that I was diagnosed with Tourette's. And I've had many Tourette's. I've had physical Tourette's where I've twitched, and I've twitched my shoulders. I've twitched my feet. I've had verbal Tourette's where I've squeaked. I've had times with Tourette's where I've literally cursed out loud, and I just couldn't stop it. It was definitely tough growing up. Most people don't understand it because not most people have it, especially nobody I knew had it. My friends, they were definitely a little bit supportive. I mean, obviously, they still crack jokes. They still, made jokes, but, because obviously they're still kids, they're friends. So that's what you do. There were times though where I think I want to say if it was bullying, but there were times where people would kind of make fun of me for it. There were times when people would kind of almost mock it, sort of. And it's tough. Having any disability is really tough. And it's even harder when you really have nobody who has it either, which makes it, you kind of feel alone because you don't even know who to go to.
Yes, I hear you on that. That's how I felt. And it's really interesting when you said when your Tourette started, because my Tourette started when I was 9 years old, or I was diagnosed with it at 9 years old. I think I've had it, like you said, probably from birth, but it didn't really start showing up until when you get to 9 or 10 years old, which is very interesting. You're not alone on that one. It seems like I've met a couple people in the past that I've met them on Facebook through the Tourette Syndrome group, and they were kind of sharing their stories, and they said the same thing. It was always around 9 or 10 years old when the Tourette's start flaring up. And I had a lot of the similar tics like you just described. I was constantly, I'll head twitch, my shoulders would twitch. I didn't have the verbal, but I had the clearing of the throat. I kept clearing my throat when I was in 5th grade. I was blinking my eyes all the time. It was just, nobody knew what it was. And see, what's unique is that I was 9 years old. It was like 1992.
Right.
Okay. So back in the early 90s, nobody knew what Tourette's was, not even doctors. They had to take me to a specialist at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. The specialist had to pull out a medical book because there was no internet back in early 90s. And when she discovered the symptoms that I had and told my parents that I had Tourette syndrome, there was no medication at the time. There was nothing, that they didn't know how to treat it. And so they were using me as a guinea pig to experiment different medications to see what it would do. And I had some medications that gave me even worse side effects when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. When it came to bullying, I was so tortured when I was in elementary school. Not also I would walk the halls in the school to go to class or be on the playground, but kids, every kid was making fun of me. They would even twitch my head and smile and start laughing. I think the saddest part was even teachers were making fun of me.
Yeah.
I had a teacher constantly giving me detention because I couldn't stop clearing my throat. My mom was a fighting force. I mean, your parents must have gone through a lot as well to help you with to deal with your Tourette's. I mean, have your mom and dad had to really fight for you at school to educate teachers and administrators about your Tourette's, to kind of explain to people what was going on?
Yeah, when I first had Tourette's, my parents, they called the school, they kind of almost gave teachers like a heads up, kind of explained to my teachers like, hey, my son has Tourette's, kind of explain what it was. For me, it never got to the point where I never necessarily got bullied. Like, I think they said there were times when people would make fun of me, and there were times when I did. There were times when I was sad, but I think I never got to bullying, but I think it was more of just my parents. They tried to, so I think they were almost trying to they were trying to understand themselves almost, which anytime you have a child who has a disability, it's obviously always tough for a parent, I would assume. Especially since, I don't think my parents never knew anybody who had Tourette's. Nobody in our family ever had Tourette's. So it was kind of just completely uncharted territory for anybody. So yeah, it was tough.
And I agree with what you said. During my childhood, and it impacted my childhood because I was a very nervous person. Tourette, like I said, Tourette's is a neurological, for those that don't know, understand Tourette's. Tourette syndrome is a neurological disorder to the brain. So what happens is our brain hiccups and it causes our body to twitch, our muscles, different areas. Everybody's got different types of tics. That's what they call it. And like Tanner with the verbal, the squeaking and the head twitching and the foot twitching, I had the head twitching, the eye blinking, and the clearing of the throat and the shoulder twitches. It's just the brain is it hiccups and it causes our muscles to reflex. And it's something that we can't control. What's tough about Tourette's, and where Tanner, I agree with Tanner, where I felt deeply alone with it, is that there's no cure for it. Yeah. There's treatments. There's plenty of treatments out there now, but there sure weren't any back when I was your age, back in the early 90s. But it only suppresses the Tourette's. And to me, my family never believed that medicine is the key to always treating someone, just like people who have autism.
Yeah.
There's medications out there, but my nephews have autism and they're on medication, but it kind of makes them like zombies.
Yeah.
It slows them down. It makes them tired. And my mom did not want that for me. So I struggled for years with my Tourette's. And over time, it gets better, Tanner. When you get older, the Tourette's tend to suppress down a little. You'll still have Tourette's. You got to embrace it. I had to learn to embrace my Tourette's. What really helped me, and I hope it did the same for you, but when I started riding roller coasters back in 2015, and I started riding some of the craziest ones out in California, my doctor had noticed and my family noticed that I wasn't twitching as much. I wasn't blinking my eyes. I wasn't twitching my shoulders all the time. And it's because I used to be so nervous. I was so afraid that I think that's what the Tourette's loves. It loves the fact you're afraid. The fear, Tourette's loves fear. So it gives you a reason, it gives your body a reason to twitch of nervousness. I felt that when I started getting on roller coasters and I was facing my fears and I literally broke my fears, it turned me into a fearless person.
Yeah.
Heck, I mean, it turned me into such a fearless person. I'm pretty sure you saw what I did on Saturday for my birthday.
Yeah.
I jumped off the stratosphere.
Yeah, I saw that.
In Las Vegas to kick off my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
Not many people can do that. That's just Well, I recommend when you really want to become really fearless, that is the ultimate fear factor right there, Tanner.
Yeah.
That will help you that helps suppress my Tourette's a lot. I recommend it when you're at the age right now where you can do it. If you and your family ever go to Vegas, I'm telling you, take the challenge and do it for your Tourette's, but make that jump. I guarantee you will be an even stronger person for doing it.
Yeah.
But riding roller coasters, it's really suppressed my Tourette's to the point where I feel like I don't even have it right now. I still twitch here and there, but not as often. And I think it's because the fear has been broken in me. So have you experienced that yourself since you've been riding roller coasters and facing your fears? Has your Tourette's really flare off as much like it used to?
Yeah, I think when I first got them, they were bad. I mean, I couldn't go even like 10 seconds without twitching. But I think when I started buying roller coasters, it really helped. I think when you start to do anything you love, either buying roller coasters, I also love sports. So even when I'm watching sports too, I mean that it kind of puts you at ease because you kind of just you're in your place, you're doing what you love. You have no stress of the outside world or anything like that. And I think I don't have many fears. The only fear I have is spiders, terrified of spiders. But
I agree with you on that. I can't even go near a tarantula. I'm sorry. Anything with more than 4 legs and hairy. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I agree with you. Between spiders and snakes. Man, that's another thing you and I have in common.
Especially up in New York in the wintertime, these spiders can get especially up in New York in wintertime, spiders, you can see them a lot because they try to find warm places. So,
really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I can only imagine. Gosh.
I think after I saw my roller coasters, I conquered my fear. I want to say I was not really scared of heights, but I was definitely nervous. I was always nervous heights, but I think I became more fearless. I think you just become more fearless. That's really what it is to where I think once you do something you're nervous about or you're scared about or you have doubts about, after you do it, you almost feel like a sense of your accomplishment. Like I did it. I can do the next thing and I can do the next thing. I can really do anything now. And I think that's what really happened when I saw my roller coasters.
Amen. That is right on, man. So you know that when you met me, you got to hear about the story of Coaster Challenge, how I started this organization. And this organization is to do what you and I are doing every day with our Tourette's. We're trying to help people out there break their fears. We're trying to help them live a better life. And there's a lot of problems in the world today, especially the pandemic this past year has really shown how much fear is out there. And I feel like for all the hard work we're doing over here, we've only begun to scratch the surface.
Right.
The fact that you and I have a common disability that we've been facing every day, and we're not letting Tourette's defeat us. We're not.
Yeah.
I can see it in you right now. I know we're on a Zoom chat, and I know our listeners can't see your face and my face, but just looking at you, I can tell you're not letting Tourette's defeat you.
No.
I want to ask you, what advice can you give to somebody out there who is listening right now, who is looking to make a change and be able to face their demons that they are dealing with, or anyone out there who has Tourette's out there who is listening to this podcast? What advice can you give those that are probably your age, how you handle your Tourette's?
I think I always look at the positive way. I think you can't look at things negatively. You can't look at the bad things. You have to look at the positive. Some kind of keep moving forward. And I think it's also important to remember you have people around you, whether it's your family, your friends, your teachers, your bosses, if you have a job. Like you have people around you who are willing to help you. And I think it's okay to let people help you. I think a lot of times people get kind of scared about, try to just do everything by themselves. But I think it's okay to other people help you. It's okay to let other people help you fight your demons for you. And I think just keep pushing forward, no matter how tough times get, no matter how rough times get. If you just keep thinking positive, if you keep doing what you love, if you keep, pursuing your dreams, and you really kind of talk to people and open up to people, it becomes a lot easier. I've been in dark place before. I also have anxiety and OCD, so I've been in a very dark place before. There have been times I've just been breaking down, crying almost every couple of days. And I think you just have to kind of let other people in, and I think you let the people in, you let the people you trust in, and I think it becomes a lot easier.
Yes, well said, Tanner. And you know what? I think you're one of the bravest persons I've ever met. Always know the fact that you and I are in a very special club together.
Yeah.
That I want you to know that if you ever feel alone out there with your Tourette's, just know that I'm right here, that you can reach out to anytime.
Definitely.
And like I said, it is a real honor to have you on here because it's a very rare thing that not many people, like you said, has. And I thank God every day that you and I guess we were like, it was like some sort of synergy that you and I happened to be next to each other that night at Kings Island at the Beast.
Yeah.
And your parents were hearing me share my story to some other people. And when they said that you had Tourette's, oh my gosh, I'll never forget that night. Both our eyes lit up with joy. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Just the conversation you and I had. I remember your mom messaging me saying, wow, I haven't seen my son, open his eyes so wide. And the language you got, the conversation you were having, it was fantastic. And you know what? In a way, you helped me to understand some things with Tourette's, just like I believe I helped you as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And just to let listeners out there, Tourette's it's a very serious thing. It's something very unique, and there's no cure for it. And all we can do is, so because there's no cure, it's a battle that we have to fight additionally with what anybody else is dealing with. Yeah. But I'm glad to say that we're not alone out there. There's a lot of people out there. They're there to help. And that's what this mission of this podcast is. We're to help people like Tanner, like myself, and help you be able to guide you, to help you understand what you have. And I hope anybody out there who has Tourette's that's listening, just know that you're not alone out there. Tanner and I are here. You'll be able to, Tanner's Instagram handle will be in the comments info bar down below in this podcast. You can reach out to him or me. And if you have questions on Tourette's, please feel free to ask us. In fact, speaking of social media, Tanner, is that where they can only find you on social media?
I have a Snapchat, but I don't want to go on it. Instagram's really the only social media I really go on. So
so
you want to find me, that's what it is.
So if you guys have questions in regards to Tourette's with Tanner, you can his handle for Instagram is in the info bar of this podcast. You can always message him and ask him questions. Same thing with us. Yeah. And Tanner, I really want to thank you for coming on and having the courage to talk about your Tourette's. I know sometimes this is not an easy thing to discuss because there's a lot of people that when you talk about Tourette's, a lot of people who don't have it don't understand what we go through. Yeah. So it's always good to be able to talk to somebody who has the same disability and can be able to share this. And I hope that you and I have made an impact in somebody's life out there who's listening to this. So
do I.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun.
Thank you, David. That was a really touching interview with Tanner. And thank you, Tanner, for being on and showing everybody what it's like for having this.
It's a interesting challenge that Tanner and I have dealt with. The bullying that him and I have both experienced from it is definitely extraordinary. It's just it's something that it's not just us. There are thousands of people out there of all ages that have Tourette Syndrome, and it's something that people don't quite understand. And I hope that in this episode we have taught a lot of people some of the struggles that Tanner and I had dealt with and how we both have overcome, and how roller coasters have really changed that. And when I met him at Kings Island, like I said, it was a very moving moment, and it was the first coaster enthusiast that I've met that had Tourette's. And I'm just glad that Tanner and I were able to help each other be able to learn more about our Tourette's. And he's also taught me some things as well. And I want to thank him personally for that, and he's just a really good friend, and I hope someday to visit with him at a park again soon with his family. And yeah, it was just a fantastic episode. I hope all you guys liked it. If you guys have any feedback, Justin, how would they be able to find us on social media?
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you want to see more from us, we upload every Friday. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all at Coaster Challenge. Links in the description.
Thank you, Justin. And make sure to send us your feedback and comments. And make sure to give us a thumbs up. And give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast network. And
if you haven't subscribed, subscribe.
Yes, we really need your guys' subscriptions here. We really want to thank you guys for all the love and support. We've got a very exciting episode next week, Jenna. I'm very excited about it.
Yay! I like it when we have exciting episodes.
Yeah. I think next week it's going to be another very heartfelt story, and just like with me and Tanner. So, but until guys, next Friday, brand new episode. And until then, this is David Cantu,
Jenna Gazelle,
and we'll see you all next week right here on Coaster Challenge.